Good evening, everybody. I'm Elena Siyanko, Executive and Artistic Director of PS21. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful evening. We are starting this evening our own house blend, PS21 House Blend, a highly caffeinated series of chamber music concerts programmed by the incomparable Alan Feinberg. Alan lives in Salzburg. He could not join us tonight, but he worked with us and musicians in the last several months to program this wonderful series and very special programs that I hope you will find exciting and attend all of our 4 concerts. This is the first one. And I want to take a moment just to say hello to, because we are live streaming this and recording this concert. And for this reason, I want to greet our staff that worked for us remotely. We have a very small staff. Some of our wonderful and most dedicated youngest team members. One of them is 17, Sasha Granat, based in San Francisco, is in high school in San Francisco. Hello, Sasha, and I want to say hello to Haley Bader, a graduate of Bard, who is working for us from Virginia. And finally, I want to thank from the bottom of my heart to our very small dedicated team here at PS21. This would not have been possible without them. And finally, our very courageous, terrific board of trustees, some of whom are here with us tonight. Thank you so, so much. This series was conceived about a year ago. We wanted to create our own kind of signature programming at PS21 of modern and contemporary music. And I want to express my gratitude to several people who made this series possible. First of all, Frank Furstenberg, in memory of Nina Segre. Thank you, Frank, who is here with us tonight. Leslie Lasseter, and also several other members of the producers circle at PS21. Thank you. Lastly, we have with us David Sanford, one of the composers of House Blend 1, and I'm so thrilled that he traveled to be with us tonight. Please enjoy the concert and come back. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's lovely to be here with you in this beautiful venue, and amazing to be having some live performances to share with you all. We thought we would say a few words about each of the pieces. That was by Ralph Shapey, a movement from Evocation No. 1. Ralph Shapey was a major figure in the new music of the 20th century. American composer from Philadelphia, lived for quite a while in New York and was very involved in the experimental scene there, and also with a lot of the painters of the time, like expressionists like de Kooning and Jack Tworkov. And then he went to Chicago. He had a teaching position at the university there and conducted the New Music Ensemble, but was very influential. I would say a main characteristic of his music, as you probably heard, is a kind of sense of expansiveness and a lot of space. He had ideas which I think are very drawn from visual art about, objects in space and all these musical ideas kind of being suspended in time, or you can think of a mobile sculpture as well. So that was just one movement, the final movement from Evocation No. 1, and I'll also just get a plug in. I actually happen to have made 2 albums of music by Ralph Shapey, so if that piqued your interest, you can check them out. So I'm going to hand this over to Geoffrey, and he's going to talk about the next piece.
Thank you, Miranda. And thank you all so much for coming. It indeed feels very joyous and liberating to be doing this again with you all, live music. So Billy Jim Layton is the next composer on the program, and he had a very distinguished career, albeit quite short one, which is probably why, in part, that we don't hear his music on programs very much anymore, even on programs like this one. He composed a fair amount between 1946 and 1964, and then just abruptly stopped, but lived another 40 years, died in 2004. For whatever reason, he decided to plunge wholeheartedly into musical academia and spend all of his time teaching and administrating. In fact, he was the first chair at the now world-renowned Stony Brook University music department in 1966. I've always loved how he was born in Corsicana, Texas. I always loved how Billy Jim Layton never changed his professional name to something more respectable like William James Layton, even when he was embraced by academia. So props to him for that, too. This particular set, ingenious set of 5 studies, was written in 1952. The first one was inspired by some particularly tricky and rhythmically bizarre medieval music. And in this movement, we start together, but then Miranda and I are in different tempos for quite a while, and then we have to hopefully realign towards the end of the piece. So that's all part of the fun. The second piece is utterly beautiful lyrical study where the violin is supposed to represent a kind of written out improvisation, with the piano providing kind of rhythmic and harmonic structure with some blues allusions. The third movement, Layton says something to the effect of that he wanted to evoke a coolly competent, hyper-virtuosic lounge jazz combo from the 1930s or 40s. The fourth piece is a study in a very quiet study in note durations that kind of acts as a prelude to the fifth piece, which is a Taka, which is really a marvelous finale with a lot of contrast between 3 different kinds of music that become more and more fragmented until the final climax. So we hope you enjoy.
Well, good evening. It's great to be here. Welcome. And I think I will take this opportunity to echo what my friends have already said, which is it's just wonderful to be here, to be sharing live music with you again, and to be in this incredible venue, this incredible place. I'd like to take a few moments to tell you about the next work on the program, Franco Donatoni's Mari for solo marimba, composed in 1992. The work is in two movements, two parts, or really two short pieces. The first piece, the first movement, has a kind of simple process where it gradually gets louder and then reaches a peak and then gets softer again. And then along with this, it starts with a single high note and a single low note, and then it starts to get denser as those two notes move in toward one another, until eventually, like, the density is so much that notes are really, like, literally falling all over each other, like packing in, almost like too much, and then it opens up again. The second movement has a similar process. This one is really just a crescendo. It starts very softly, and it gets very loud. It begins at the bottom of the instrument and goes all the way to the top. And the thing that happens with this, too, is as it goes along, as it makes its way up, as it gets louder, and as the intervals get tighter, it becomes dense in a different way, and almost, it sort of bleeds the pitch out of the instrument until it's just left with this very percussive, very noisy thing in the end. So I'd like to say a few things about that process that Donatoni uses in it, and if you'll bear with me, I'm going to read something to you now. So he describes these two things, the horizontal as diachronic and the vertical as synchronic. And he wrote regarding this, "I live in the diachronic, in history, in the chronology that we can define graphically as a horizontal line. The vertical, on the other hand, is the image of the synthesis carried out in an instant, of intuition, of inspiration, of mystical moments, of unforeseen illuminations." The title of the work, Mari, is the Italian word for seas, as in the plural of the sea, the body of water, not the notes on the instrument, of which there are many seas, but the other type of sea. And here is where my sort of like impromptu program notes are going to get very speculative. I don't know if the title of the work actually refers to seas, but it seems intuitively like that would make sense. And thinking about that title, or at least that word, and the instrument for which it's written, the marimba, I don't know, it gave me like a useful sort of metaphor and a way of thinking about it. I'm sure you're all very familiar with the marimba, but I'd like to introduce you to this instrument just a little bit. It's a percussion instrument. I hit it with mallets, but it's a keyboard, and it's laid out exactly the same as a piano keyboard, with white keys here, black keys here, or naturals and accidentals. But in certain really fundamental ways, it's different than a keyboard instrument. It's not like a controller, like a keyboard where you play something and it activates something else. You hit a piece of wood and the wood vibrates. And each bar is like its own little instrument, its own little piece of wood that then together make up this thing. And so now in my perhaps overly stretched metaphor about the sea, I like to think of it as like each of those notes, each of those bars is a small part of a thing that when they're brought together, when they're used in concert, create a wave, create something of incredible power and beauty that can work together, but then separate again into their constituent parts. And finally, as I was thinking about the marimba last night while breaking it down to put in my car, which is a time when I often get philosophical about the marimba, wonder what it's all about, it occurred to me, and really this is purely speculative, but it occurred to me that the title of the piece is the first four letters of marimba. So I don't know if that's intentional. I couldn't find any references to it, but it makes a lot of sense to me. So with that in mind, I hope you enjoy Donatoni's Mari.
Good evening and welcome to this lovely venue, PS21. There is a change in the program. The Suolo of David Sanford, a solo cello piece, was actually meant as a replacement for the Cancelli this evening. And we would like to end with David's 22 Part 1 because there's, as you'll hear, there's not much you can play after 22 Part 1. A word about David's Suolo. It's a recent commission. In fact, I think the dates might be reversed on the program, so in addition to the order. So the Suolo was written just in 2020, and or 2021 even, and 22 Part 1 was composed in 1995. Suolo is a response to two paintings, Botticelli's iconic Primavera painting and Charlene Van Hale's Primavera 2020. She created a painting as a response to the Botticelli. And from there, together with my collaborators, Charlene Van Hale and Geoffrey Young, MD, we are commissioning 81 composers to write pieces for solo cello. So David's is one of 81, and very happy to play it as a prelude to 22 Part 1. I've always felt that the duo that we're going to play for you is one of the boldest statements for this genre of cello and piano. I thought Beethoven was bold, when he composed his last sonata for cello and piano, and he had a 3-bar or 3.5 bar solo in the piano before the cello entered. This was, before that he actually started with the cello alone and then brought in the piano because he was trying to establish a sense of equality between these two very different instruments. But David begins 22 Part 1 with a pretty epic piano solo and then has the cello gradually sneak in. I'm going to hand over the mic to my colleague. Oh, incidentally, the project is called the Primavera Project. So if you want to read more about Suolo or other pieces that I also played earlier in the pre-concert, theprimaveraproject.com.
Thank you, Matt. So I will speak a little bit about 22 Part 1, but also about David Sanford. David Sanford is the man that brought us together, basically, when we played together for the first time with Scherzo Grosso, a cello concerto for cello and jazz big band. And I'm a charter member of that big band, a very proud charter member called the Pittsburgh Collective. Absolutely fantastic unit featuring David Sanford's music. We put together this piece very shortly thereafter, right around that time. And it is a really remarkable piece. It shows many of the hallmarks of David's indelible and righteous style. The title 22 Part 1 has a lot of numerological references that are fascinating. And if you're curious about them, then please ask Mr. Sanford himself, who is, we're honored to have him in our presence tonight after the concert, and of course we'll acknowledge him afterwards. Matt and I also recorded this piece for a duo CD that we put out some time ago of all American music. There were two really new pieces on it. That's David Sanford's 22 Part 1, and a piece by Augusta Reed Thomas that she wrote for us called Cantos for Slava, just a memoriam for Mrs. Rostropovich. And then two classic American pieces, the Barber Sonata and the Elliott Carter Sonata. So what I often tell people when they ask me what's David's music like or what's sort of the central stylistic hallmark, I say, and David, I consider this the highest possible compliment. What if Alban Berg wrote funk? So hopefully you'll see what I mean.
Thank you.